What are early signs of a toxic relationship? When they do something that makes you uncomfortable, and they get mad at you for expressing your discomfort. All taking and no giving. Subtly insulting you for their own pleasure. Money problems and or addiction. When you don't feel like you can actually speak about your problems since they will take it personally or won't bother listening. Trying to control you. Giving you silent treatment. Trying to alienate you from your friends. Making you choose between them and your family, career, passion. Trying to police your social media. Pressuring you into exile activities. When they constantly call all their exes crazy. When they're emotional when you do leisurely things that don't involve them. Sir, this is a relationship. I need some space, damn it. When you realize that you are spending all your time dealing with their issues, and never yours. The relationship doesn't feel good. When they seem to argue with you a lot, and make petty things into a huge dispute. It's stuff like this that makes you realize how much of a toxic relationship you're in. Also, when the only time they seem like they're not arguing is when they want something from you. When every argument is your fault and you have to be the one to apologize every time. When they start isolating you from your friends and wanting to know what you've been doing, or where you've been, all the time. Or making you feel bad for not being with them. I'm in my early 30s, but from my experience, when you don't let your partner have their own independent life outside of the relationship, it's a red flag. An inability to take responsibility for their own actions, especially if you find yourself apologizing to them for being bothered by something they did. Gaslighting. Run fast. It never ends. Controlling behavior. It can start out as seeming like they are only looking out for your being by always having to be with you or asking who is on the phone hanging right next to you when you use it. Showing signs of being hurt that you are talking to, let's say, your best friend, and not talking to or hanging out with them and then getting mad at you for it. Unhealthy power dynamics forming. Feeling tense whenever you're around them. From my own experience, if you begin to question, no matter how tentatively or quietly, whether a relationship is unhealthy or if a partner is controlling, abusive, then you already know the answer. That is the main thing I would say. Because, as has already been said, the abuse happens gradually and it is hard to pinpoint where it started, but it gradually becomes more normal to the person being abused as it increases. And the abuser will gaslight and make you doubt and question everything. So the second it enters your mind that it is even a possibility, trust that thought. And monitor any further behavior through that lens, rather than giving the benefit of doubt. Also, if you begin to feel like guilt is the strongest emotion guiding your relationship. Guilt for being late, for being too friendly to other men, for saying the wrong thing when he is stressed, for not answering texts quick enough, for leaving them to go out with friends, for having fun without them. Guilty for anything and everything. Chances are that's exactly how they want you to feel. If there is a pattern of them disliking your friends and family, and probably them all disliking your partner in return too, and constantly making out like they care more about you than those people do. Jokes at your expense. Particularly when they are about something that they know will be hurtful, damage your self-esteem. Sly digs or put downs, that will be followed with "I'm only joking, don't be so sensitive." Emotional manipulation. Also, when a person shares too much too fast, trauma bonding is a thing. They share personal stuff to gain trust. Jealousy and controlling behavior. There's tons of sign but can be difficult to spot because you're smitten. If you find yourself allowing things you'd never allow or feel yourself withdrawing, something is definitely up. Just keep in mind that abuse isn't always physical. Off the top of my head. Limiting who you're friends with of opposite X. Tracking your location and getting in trouble if you're out too late or veered away from a certain location. Not staying in constant communication via text or social media. Your so sees you active on social media but is hurt if you don't respond to them immediately. Gaslighting they're always the victim. Everything is your fault no matter the circumstance. One-sided rules, that is take a combination of anything I said above but it doesn't apply to them. Example, I'm allowed to have friends. But then they select your friends. Constantly going through your things without permission, especially your phone. Having passwords to your accounts and reading through your stuff or making changes on your behalf. You are having a conversation and all of a sudden they take offense at some misperceived slight. Then they blow it up out of nowhere, then go on and on and on until you are in a fight and now you are defending yourself for some non-existent bullshit. Controlling behavior. As easy as it sounds to spot, a lot of people fail to spot this because they still favor that person, or they are simply too naive to see it. I think people should try to gain some knowledge about this stuff before entering a relationship. Wanting to know exactly where you are, what you're doing, and who you're with all the time. Running hot and cold. 1 minute being all lovey-dovey, then being cold and distant. Massive red flag. Asking questions about previous relationships in seemingly good faith, then throwing that information back in your face later on. Constantly questioning you about your whereabouts, and implying that you've been up to no good when you've been hanging out with friends or even family. Not really complimenting you unless it's masked in a criticism or insult. Sabotaging your relationships by starting fights or calling your friends a bad influence. Basically, when you have a partner who you can't trust to have your back or best interests in hard times, then it's time for you to move on, period. Don't wait for them to change, they won't. In addition to many of the more obvious ones here. Not apologizing and not taking responsibility for their actions. Always constructing a narrative that absolves them of responsibility in any issue. Both of these indicate an unwillingness to admit fault in any way that bruises their ego. On a small level, it's not sorry I made us late because I lost track of time. It's well, you should have called me to make sure I had eaten before we got close to the time to leave, and why does the extra half hour matter anyway? In my experience, this eventually turned into every issue, big or small, being 100% my fault no matter what, plus a dramatic rewriting of history to save her ego after the fact. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment.